Welcome to the Horror Hour.
I see dead people.
We all go a little mad sometimes. We get you.
Jesus alive!
The dead
Yeah, I am your
You are going to die tonight.
Go at me, Damien! It's all for you!
Hi, Guy. How are you?
I'm doing well, thanks. How are you doing?
Really good. I'm pretty excited to talk about this film. Immediately once the trailer came out, I was extremely excited because this looks like a bloody ride. So, um, first off, I just want to ask, when it came to crafting this story, what were some of your inspirations?
Well, I have to give a lot of credit to the first writer on the project, Stephen Shields. So he came up with the idea a few years ago and pitched it as a take to Universal, and then did a couple drafts, and then it came Radio Silence's way, and they loved the idea and wanted to develop it more to their kind of style and voice and tone, if that makes sense. And since we'd
Hmm.
had such a great working relationship on three movies in a row, Ready or Not, and the two Scream movies, they brought me in to do some work on the script, and so ended up doing a bunch of drafts. But I think Steve and I have now met and become friends, and I think I
Oh,
could tell what
amazing.
his inspirations were. At least I could guess, and they were definitely the same as mine. From Dusk Till Dawn was a big one, and it's same kind of idea where it's a crime movie that collides with a monster movie in an unexpected way. And yeah, I also there were similarities too with Ready or Not in terms of like the one location, the big house, the
Hmm.
people turning on each other. So there was a lot of fun things to revisit there as well. And then I think Interview with the Vampire, Kirsten Dunst's character,
Oh,
Claudia. I haven't
yeah.
watched the TV show, but so that's kind of where I go when I think of the adaptation of those books. But this is a little bit different, as you can tell from the trailer. This is not, proper vampires. These are, this Abigail is quite the little monster, so it's a little less refined than the Kirsten Dunst character.
I kind of like that. Again, like the trailer was very like, okay, well, wait. I go, where's the twist? And I saw it go, oh, okay. I was rooting for her, but now, well, no, I think I'm still rooting for her. So I really, yeah, I have to admit that I love a good monster movie, and so I'm excited to see just her performance too because it looks very physical, which I'm excited to see this height-sized kid take on all of these folks, especially I think what Kevin Durand is like 6'6", so that's gonna
Yeah.
be
Oh, it's a scene. I mean, to see this little girl go up against all these, seasoned criminals, and it is a trip. And you talk about the physicality of the performance. I mean, we just hit the jackpot with Alicia Weir because she's already trained in ballet, and that was a
Mhm.
big part of Steven's original idea that we all loved and just really clung on to was this girl is a ballerina, and how does she incorporate that into the way that she hunts and kills, and the
Oh,
guys, the stunt choreographers and stunt people and Radio Silence and everybody involved just really cracked a really cool like fighting style and attack style and things like that. So it's, even though she is a feral monster at a certain point, she still has that sort of ballerina edge or ballerina quality to her. So there is there's still a grace in it, and especially since
I
she's
love
really kind
that.
of, I think she even says in the trailer, "I like playing with my food." So it's all it's all a bit of a fun experience for her.
No, I really I think that's great. I enjoyed seeing that in the trailer, and I love the idea of just on one hand, because it also actually makes me think of Ready or Not, to where it is just violent and visceral, but there's still somewhat of this beauty or like this softness, I guess, to the character, Abigail, and that's great hearing that Alicia was able to tap into that. Uh, what, you know, again, you mentioned the same thing, like the one location, the big house. Now, did you get to ever, because I saw where you guys were filming, ever get to go on set and just see this place? Because
Yes, several times. I mean, it was a really cool experience. I think it was the October, so it would have been October 2022. We all went over and looked at locations, and that was obviously going to be the one once we saw it. But we looked at a lot of different places, like old castles. And
oh
that was a
wow.
trip, you know, because this is all outside, you know, Dublin. Some of them are pretty far outside of Dublin. This one was like 10 minutes outside of Dublin. So that was yet another good quality for it. So you wouldn't have to ferry the cast and crew in from a great distance. Yeah, man, that is a really, really cool house. And like we you know, I got to go over then in April, right before the writer's strike, to kind of do some final work on the script, knowing that I wasn't going to get to be available
Mhm.
as they were shooting this time, which was a real bummer. But I was over there for a few weeks actually, and getting to go to each of the rooms and go, okay, this set piece or sequence is going to be here. How can we use the space to maximum effect? And it was so cool. And then just, you know, to have radio silence there, and the producers there, and you know, all of the heads of department and crew people and all that, just, and we're all just kind of brainstorming, like, okay, so then maybe if she jumps up on this, and then we could do a little dance thing there, she could leap over that, you know. It was so fun. And you know, as the writer, it just helps so much to have gotten to see the space, and so then I can go home and be like, okay, I know what that room is, I know how to write this specifically for that. So yeah, it's a really cool space. And then you hear just a little bit of trivia. That original writer, Stephen Shields, is Irish, and yet there was nothing in the script that made it set in Ireland, and it was just a coincidence that the production ended up there. And the man lives 10 minutes from that house. Isn't that weird?
That is wild.
That's so crazy. And then he got to go, you know, visit the set as well. And you know, it's down the street for him, in a place he would just drive by. And when he wrote it, he had no idea it was going to end up shot there. So I just thought that was really cool.
That's amazing. Oh, how fun. I love that. Um, that's kind of, that blows me away. Like that's
Just the serendipity of it all, yeah.
yeah.
Because you know, it was set in different places over a few drafts, you know, and then
Mhm.
I think originally it was like in an abandoned hotel, and then you know, we thought about like an old castle or something like that that could pass as like an old mansion, and then we found this place that was just like, wow, this is ideal. So we're
Mhm.
really grateful that we found that. And you know, it's the cliche always is like, but it's a character too. But you'll see in this movie it kind of is. And when you see like there's a there's a sequence, you know, there's a pool in that house, and I believe that's in the trailers, that's not a spoiler.
Mhm.
But we were exploring, and sometimes some of us would break off because it's so big.
Yeah.
And me and Chad Villela from Radio Silence were just kind of doing some exploring, and we almost, because there's like a door and then just a sheer drop into the pool. We almost fell in and broke our necks.
Oh my God.
So we came very close to that. So we're like, oh, we obviously have to have a scene where somebody, you know, opens that door
Yes.
and falls in.
I
Um,
love that.
yeah, it was a bit scary because you know it's very old, and you know we didn't have a map or anything at that point, so we're just kind of like, wonder what's down here.
But no, I like that you say that, because I do agree that sometimes set pieces can be either supporting, or there are some films where I feel like it's the main character. So
Mm.
that's really cool to hear that. Um, you know, also the cast that's assembled is crazy, but I love that as I was reading just some of the stuff that I will say, because I don't want to spoil anything, you know, that everybody is not who they seem just in general, and each character has so much backstory, and I'm excited to see how that plays out. And with working with Steven, you know, did you work to kind of craft some of that, or you know, was this something he already had in mind, to add some of that to it, so it's just not your typical, you know, monster film?
I think, yeah, we sort of, I mean, what was in the script and what I responded to, and I could also tell that one of the influences was Reservoir Dogs, because, and again, I don't think this is a spoiler because you find out in the first, you know, 30 seconds of the movie that
Yeah,
these people don't know each other.
and I
This
love
is
that.
this is a team that's a crew that's been assembled by somebody else, and only one of the team, the ringleader, who is Dan Stevens' character, knows that person who assembled the team. And so, and so they all have, not their real names. And then, you do come to find out they learn more about each other. Some of it's true, some of it's not. There's all that fun Reservoir Dogs, like infighting and finger pointing, and who's the rat, who's going to betray who, what are the little alliances, who actually teams up versus who else, and this is even before we get to the monster. So it's a lot of
Oh my
fun, just like
gosh.
crime movie tropes that like Reservoir Dogs, which is one of my all-time favorites. And it's like, oh, to get to do that, and then it's like, oh, by the way, there's a vampire in this movie. It was just a real treat.
I love that. I'm excited to see that, how all of that plays out in terms of that. I guess I do, being, or well, crafting this film and again teaming up with Radio Silence. Was it just kind of like getting back in the saddle? Because I mean, you've partnered with them so much, and you kind of, like you said, you know their tone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it was. I mean, it's kind of it's a family at this point, and in terms of making movies, it's a well-oiled machine. We can kind of there's a shorthand at this point, but honestly, it was kind of freaky that when my co-writer Ryan and I on Ready or Not, when we first met, the three guys, Matt, Tyler, and Chad, it was as if we'd known each other for years. It was like, oh, we really have the same sensibility. We see the tone of this movie the same way, and that's carried through, the next three. And this one probably has the most in common with Ready or Not, just in terms of tone. And you said, I don't know, I can't remember verbatim, but like a bloody good ride or something like that. That's always the goal. Is like we see these movies as roller coaster rides. They're not, one thing. They're not just scary. They're not really horror comedies, but there is humor in it, obviously, because of the absurd situation. And we're not playing it in sort of a jokey way where everyone's riffing on like, I can't believe there's a vampire. It's like, how would people actually react to this? It's like, okay, vampires are real. We're trapped in a house with one. What do we do? And the humor comes out of like the absurdity of that situation. But yeah, we all share the same sense of humor. We all find the same things funny. We like the same types of characters. And there's a lot of heart or we try to, imbue these things with a lot of heart. And so they're characters that are just one dimensional aren't interesting to us. And so you talk about rooting for the little girl, and then I might still be rooting for the little girl, even after she's a monster. That's part of the fun of this thing is hopefully if we've done our job, your loyalties will shift from time to time as you get to know more about these people and as some of these relationships deepen or become more specific. So yeah, it's just, we love character, we love complicated character, and twists, obviously plot twists, but also character turns where you're like, well, I did not see that coming in terms of that character would do that in that moment. But looking back, it actually does make perfect sense. Hopefully, again, if we've done our job right, everything, even the big swings will actually pay off and make you go, okay, yeah, I can see that. That person might do that.
I like something that keeps me on my toes. I mean, truly, because it can get I hate when I don't want to guess something at the very beginning. And sometimes that just happens, but I think it's a very good testament to just the writers and actors. Well, I think everybody, honestly, directors as well, when it comes to crafting something to where you go in thinking one thing and you leave completely blown away or just like, oh, okay. Wow. Yeah, no, I love that. So
I do too. I mean, we all love those movies too, where it's like you go, okay, wait, what movie am I in here? It's something like Barbarian, where it just the hard cut to Justin Long, and you're like, oh, this is a whole different movie. And I get excited by stuff like that, and I'm leaning forward, and I'm like, okay, this storyteller knows what they're doing. They know, they've got me now in the palm of their hand, and it's so much fun. And even though we all kind of knew from the get go, you're gonna know it's a vampire in the trailer, and that's gonna be part of the marketing because it's such a hook that it's a little girl ballerina vampire. There's no way that they're not gonna show that. And I'm happy to say that is not the last twist of the movie, and things
God, yes.
just blow up even bigger and weirder from there.
I love
So
that.
I wasn't disappointed at all when that sort of twist was shown early, because we're like, well, yeah, you got to do it, but don't worry, there's a lot more after that in store.
Oh, that's good to hear. And it's funny that you mentioned that because I agree that scene in Barbarian, I remember in the theater go, ah, ooh, okay, all right.
Yeah.
I'm like, what the hell just happened? So I'm
Yeah,
glad to
it's so
hear that.
fun.
But I have to say, just this looks like also action heavy. And I'm really just excited to see just the physicality and all the actors because, as you said, now they've kind of have to meet, I guess, Alicia's, I mean, Abigail's like ferocity from what it sounds like.
Mhm.
So getting to see all of them in different scenarios, that's going to be great. I do also have to just question, because I don't know how this man ever has time, but the fact that you got Giancarlo Esposito, who's like, I swear in everything,
Yeah,
when he popped up in the trailer, I go, how, I'm like, he's on what, how many shows right now and other
yeah,
films?
yeah.
And I go, and they got him to do, I was like, I love that. Okay. And
No,
he's
that I mean
always
that was
never
a
good.
dream. Yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah. Sorry to interrupt, but yeah, I was just like when they got him, I was just over the moon, because I've been a fan since, I think, Do the Right Thing, and like whatever that was, 88, 89, and all the way up through Gus Fring and Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul. It's just like this guy is a favorite of mine, and so to have been able to have written dialogue for one of the greats, is really like a bucket list thing. And he's fantastic in the movie, as you'll see.
I I love his characters all the time because I never want to trust him, but I will trust him. And I
Mhm.
don't know if it's just how he's playing them or he just seems like that kind of guy where he's just so charismatic. And so I'm just like, oh man, when he entered the trailer, I go, oh dang. I was like, okay, all right.
It's such a good cast. I mean, and I think people are gonna have different favorites, but everyone is so good. It's like a murderer's row of great character actors, and yeah, it's like in any one scene, I'm like, oh no, they just stole the movie, and then the next scene, I'm like, no, they stole the movie. Everyone's got these moments that are just they just walk away with it, and we just man, we get so lucky with these casts, like 4 for 4. Like everybody just really gets along. You can get the camaraderie and the vibe, even when the characters aren't getting along. You can tell the actors are having fun. Like they're just happy to be there. And I didn't get to visit the set this time because of the writer strike, so I was
Hmm.
bummed. I probably could have, but it wouldn't have looked great. Like,
No, I
just in
totally
case
understand. Yeah.
somebody might have been like, "Is he doing any work?" So it was safer to just not go. But from all the stories I've heard, like it was the same experience as on the last 3 movies, where it was just a little family. And you can really see that in the movie, that everyone's just giving their best because they're having a good time. So I couldn't be happier. It's like even when someone would be cast and I'm like, well, that's not who I saw in my head, and then I'd see dailies or see a cut of the movie and go, oh no, it had to be them. And that is who I was thinking of. I just didn't know it yet.
I do love hearing just from, anytime a movie is being made, it's always fun to hear that they enjoy doing what they're like. You can see that in the performance, and then
Yeah,
it just shows on screen as an audience member. Like you can tell when you're like, okay, they're not having fun. They're phoning it in. And that's
yeah,
fine. Sometimes a check's a check. But I love to see when people are just having so much fun in the role that they're given, that
yeah.
they're just, oh, that's good to hear.
Yeah, well, I think that credit goes to Radio Silence. They just create a warm and fun set, and also Project X and William Sherrick. He's the producer on set, at least for the last 3, and they all just want everyone to have a good time, and they want everyone to be happy. And so I got to visit the Scream 6 set in Montreal, and I just saw that, and I was like, wow, this is just so fun, and everyone's smiling. I imagine there are movie sets that just aren't like that. So I'm just so happy to be in business with these people that want everyone to be happy and have a good time. Like that's so great. They're not just good at their job; they're good people, and they give so much to their cast and crew that they obviously they want to give it back, and they do a great job.
I think that's awesome. Now, so they haven't had the official premiere, have they? Because I know they're premiering at Out, or I'm not Out. I'm sorry, Overlook.
Hmm.
because I went to a couple of years ago, I think it was when Black Phone came out. I purposely went to that festival for that. And I
Nice.
may have to make the trip again, just specifically for, I mean, they have other great films there, but when they said, yeah, this is going to be premiering there, I go, what? I might have to actually make a trip because
Yeah.
just seeing this on screen, it looks, this also looks like a film to where I envision the audience fully participating in the film.
I would hope so. I think that there are, moments of humor and moments of horror that are pretty spectacular. Like they're sort of begging a verbal reaction from the audience. And if ideally, like if it's that kind of crowd and everyone's just in it for the ride and they've invested and they're having a good time, then there are a couple of moments that hopefully will get that kind of response, where it's either ooh or ha.
I love that. I mean,
Yeah.
I and I'll go back to the Black Phone because I didn't think that would be a film that the audience would get in, like just fully. But I can tell you, the audience I sat with, like we were all hooting and hollering, and like I forgot the character's name, but that actress when she hit that kid over the head with a rock, we're like,
Yeah.
yeah, like
Yeah.
I'm like, is this type of movie? Did not see that coming, but I love it. So
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to. I'd love to see a film that is going to terrorize me, but I also love to just see the audience interact. So that should
Hmm.
be interesting. And I mean, just from the stills that you've shown, there is also so much blood.
Oh my
Um,
God.
would
So
you?
much
I
blood.
have to ask, would this be the bloodiest film by far? Or I mean, because Ready or Not still is. Ooh, that is a lot of blood. But I'm just curious if this is gonna top that or.
I think it tops it. I gotta say this one I think takes the prize for our collaboration's bloodiest film so far, and I hope that that doesn't come across as gratuitously gory because it's not.
Mhm.
There is actually a reason for it. I mean, a there's a vampire, so
Yeah, I feel like
blood
it's
is
a
going to be
given.
involved.
I'd be a little
Whether it's
disappointed
being
if it wasn't.
exactly, you gotta satisfy certain tropes, and whether it's being ingested or sprayed, that's one thing. But yeah, as you've seen from the stills, the things do get a bit bloody, and I wonder if it's some kind of silent bet that we all have to see like how far can we go, or maybe like a silent dare rather, where it's like how far can we go before it's too far, before there's just like, well, that was one pint too many, and we've jumped this, we've jumped the blood shark, and we now our next movie is going to be like a chamber drama or something, so we can atone for all the fluids spilled.
Oh my God. I love that. Um, when it came to, or when it comes to also, uh, you said again, really fun performances. I'm also excited because I think, you have so many that are typically in horror films, but there are a couple that are not. And RIP, I know this was Angus MacLeod's final film. So I'm excited to see that. And I can't wait to see his performance. And just again, it sounds like it's going to be a testament just how much they had fun on set. Uh, but
I
I'm
think so. Yeah, and Angus is brilliant in the film, and everyone was very heartbroken when that happened. I was really really sad that I never got to meet him because, by all accounts, he was just the sweetest man alive, and just so talented. And so I hope that people feel that this final film, this final performance, honors him. I think it does. I think he's just so good in it that um, it's the whole thing is just heartbreaking. But I'm glad that his last experience was a good one, that he had a good time, and it was something that he really shines in. Um,
I
yeah, and
love that.
the whole cast, like I said, is um, we're just, and like you said, there's some that aren't traditional horror folks, and that's fun because it's like, what does that look like when you put them in a new world? And Angus is one of those where it's like, oh, he fits right in. He
I
gets it. He
love
knows
that.
he knows exactly what this world is and how to play with it and how to have fun with it. And everybody did. It did feel like, no, this, if you just don't think of it as a horror movie, but just this like crazy situation, and you play it relatively straight,
Mhm.
then that's all you have to do. That's your job. Is, you know, like you don't have to crack jokes. It's not one liners, you know, wall to wall. It's just, how the hell do we get out of this insane situation? How do we survive this? Um, so yeah.
No, I do. I'm excited to see that because I'm a huge fan. Honestly, I'm a fan of everybody. You've got Catherine Newton, who I love seeing her in horror. Honestly, Freaky is still one of my favorites.
So good.
Um, Dan Stevens, I'm really excited because he's great in horror, but sometimes he also injects this humor, I think, in some
Hmm.
of his performances that it's so like somewhat refreshing because you're like, I'm meant to like be, oh, but I feel like he might be the character I'm gonna love to hate. And then, I mean, I think Melissa Barrera, she always gives her all, like in
Hmm.
horror, even like the criminally underwatched Bed Rest. Like I
Hmm.
just love seeing her terrified because she does such a great
She's great in
performance.
all of those. And my friend Laurie Evans Taylor, who I co-wrote Final Destination Bloodlines with, that she wrote and directed that movie, and so we've both had great
That's where
experiences
she is too.
writing. Yeah. So,
I
which is yeah, it's small world, and that was also produced by Project X. So like we keep it all in the family, but yeah, getting to write for these people who I know I've seen in horror, and in Melissa's case, I'd written for her in two other movies already, so I knew what she was capable of, and they all bring it, you know, and they're all injecting not just the humor in the fun within character and within reason. Um, they're really just bringing something new to it. I've never seen Dan deliver a performance like, I've never seen him play a character just like this. Same with Melissa. Same with Catherine. Sort of the horror vets. You know, they're playing something I think really different, and that for me, just as a fan, is fun. And so when you slot in somebody who's done horror before, but they're it's a different kind of character, I think that's exciting.
Absolutely. And it's funny, I forgot that she was doing Final Destination 6 Bloodlines because I spoke to her about Bed Rest, and I even told her after I watched that movie, I was like, that terrified me, and I'll never be pregnant or in that situation. But like, great job. That was incredibly effective. So
Yeah, yeah, I agree.
um
No, Laurie's fantastic, and I think that yeah, Final Destination is going to be really fun.
again, another I'm hoping for. I love gore. I'll be honest. I'm a gore hound, so I'm excited. But I will say, well, no, I love gore, but I also enjoy horror films that take me on a ride. And as you said, the roller coaster aspect of this film is what I think I'm most excited for. But now that you're telling me that, they're bringing something new as well, um, well, that has me even more excited because I love seeing something new on screen that catches me off guard.
So I think you'll get that several times over.
Um, I would have to ask then just personally, like when it comes to writing or just horror in general, what are some of your inspirations?
Oh gosh, I take them from everywhere. I mean, I watch everything. To me, the most effective horror movies are the ones that have a universal premise, something that we're all kind of familiar with, and then turning it on its head, making it scary. You know, it's like Exorcist is really just, you know, my kid is sick and I can't help her. You know, The Shining is my
Oh,
dad's an alcoholic and I don't, you know, I don't know how to help him and I'm afraid of him now. This person who's I'm supposed to love is terrifying to me now. Rosemary's Baby, you know, like being scared about being pregnant and having a child, you know, like universal themes. And like with Ready or Not, that was kind of where Ryan and I started. It was like you know, I had the experience of meeting my future wife's whole family at once. It was like
hmm.
everybody, the whole extended family at the same time.
Oh wow.
And we'd been together for probably
That's
6 months. So
pressure though.
it was, and it's terrifying. And so I was like, wouldn't that be a great premise for a horror movie if you're already scared and nervous about, I want to make a good impression, I'm feeling anxious, I'm feeling self-conscious, and then what if it became the worst possible version of that, and it happened to be your wedding night. So that's the stuff that really appeals to me. It's something that I could relate to, and as like just a real world situation or fear, that then you ratchet up to 11 or throw the horror thing at it. Just what's the little horror trope that you can add that elevates the whole thing into a genre movie, as opposed to just a thriller or a drama or whatever it is.
I've never heard somebody say or refer to Exorcist, and it's a great way, because that's a great way to trick somebody into watching it.
Yeah,
My little girl's sick and I can't help her because that movie
yeah.
terrifies me. So I
Oh
love
God,
that.
it's probably my all-time favorite horror movie still, and I know it's a cliche, but it just holds up. I just watched it, again a few months ago, and I'm like, this is just a perfect movie, and it's because it's played so straight, and because it's a drama for so long, that when it just, they earn the right to ratchet it all the way up there by, an hour and a half in, and you're just like, oh my God, this is actually happening. This is the most terrifying thing I've ever seen in my life. And the performances are so lived in, and like all the doctor sequences or, and the hospital sequences are as scary as some of the demon sequences. Cause, this little girl's going through like a spinal tap and she's in the MRI,
Oh,
and
it's
it's
crazy.
so, anyway, I can go on and on about that movie, but yeah, at its core, it's just, what do I do when my kid is sick? You know, and that's a terrifying idea on its own.
I will tell you, I've only seen that movie a total of 3 times, because the first time I saw it, I was way too young. And so it terrorized me. I'm serious. I saw it when I was
Yep.
6. Again,
Oh,
I don't
that's
recommend that.
way
I,
too.
I don't
No.
recommend that at all. And it sat with me for so long, so I never revisited it until maybe about maybe a couple of years ago. And it does. It still holds up, and it makes me very anxious and nervous to watch it. And so I've watched it one time after that since, and even now I'm like, I pray. It's a great, fantastic horror film, fantastic film in general. But I'm like, it's incredibly effective. Like you won't see me. I will praise it, but I don't want to sit down and watch it ever again. Until like I'm in a room with other people. Like it literally gets under my skin, and I love that about that film. But
Yeah, those are the ones that I think that's how you know it's great, is when you can't shake it. It really gets under your skin. And when I see something like Hereditary or Midsommar, or I'm just like, well, I'm not going to forget that ever. And and there's something universal in those movies too. So it's just like, I don't care what it is. It could be, just a supernatural horror, a ghost story. It can be a cult. It can be a serial killer. It doesn't matter if there's some human element in there that is relatable. That's what usually stays with me is the emotion of it, or the emotional experience of it.
I mean, I would agree. I think effective horror is something that, as you said, it's something like I can never unsee that, and I could never not think about it. And it's funny
Mhm.
because there's a couple of people I know who, like you mentioned a horror film, and they just like they tense up, and that's me. Like when you said Exorcist, okay. But I love that, because for me, I love the idea of being scared, but also I love genre film, because I feel like sometimes it's looked down upon, and I hate that, because I think there's so much to the writing, but also the performances. I think people just those are highly overlooked in my opinion. But
Yeah.
oh man.
Yeah, there could be
Okay.
some great performances in horror movies, and I wish they'd get recognized more during awards seasons.
But
Like Tony Collette. Speaking of Hereditary, like, come on, what are we doing here,
that
Academy?
dinner scene. I know somebody who can
Yeah,
recite that dinner scene, and it cracks me up, because I'm like, that's such a great scene. But that I go,
it's
I think I was at a drag show. I was like, that's camp though, to see that. I was like, okay, all right. Um, and like same thing, like Lupita Nyong'o and Us. That's a
yeah,
fantastic.
exactly. I
Uh,
mean, yeah, doing two performances in that movie, they're so specific, and yeah, she's just a genius.
Yeah. I guess then the other thing too, just with everything in terms of horror that
Mhm.
we've, from I guess past and on. like what's going on currently in horror that you're just enjoying, that maybe, we're finally tapping into in the genre, something that surprised you.
I, it's tough to put my finger on one thing. I feel like I'm just watching a lot of really inspired things lately, like When Evil Lurks. Some really, really bleak, dark stuff, and yet at the same time, I feel like there's also kind of a rise in fun horror. Like the sort of thrill ride that we're talking about with Abigail. I feel like I've seen more of that too. That's your Megans and your Malignants and things where you're like, oh, this is a ride, and you're not afraid to have fun, and it's okay to laugh with the movie because this twist or whatever is insane, and we're all in on it. It's okay to just have fun, and yet they're still effectively scary too and disturbing. And so, like, I feel like there's two tracks. I watch all of it, like I said, but sometimes I really dig the bleak apocalyptic, When Evil Lurks type of movie, and sometimes
That is a bleak
I
movie,
like
but
the sort of poppy quasi camp, fun popcorn movie that's at the blockbuster. So yeah, I just feel like horror is having a really good moment, and so I'm grateful to be sort of working in the genre at this time. I feel like a lot of people are going out to the theaters or streaming these things when they come out, and it's just as a fan, it's a fun time for me to just be watching scary movies.
no, and we've had and I agree. I think horror is having so much success at the box office, and I think
Yeah,
because we're getting to see some, new original ideas, but also just people are just like, I can't say I was ever going to expect to see Sydney Sweeney in, something like Immaculate. And I'm like, okay, I enjoy that. And I hope we get to keep seeing more of just horror surprising people at the box office, but also just in general. Like, I agree. It's important that if they're able to see it too, streaming, like, go for it. Like, just put
sure.
your eyeballs on horror, and like, there's so much out there.
Yeah, I feel like the two things that are sort of like made to be theatrical experiences are horror and comedy. And
Hmm.
so if you can have both in one movie, like Abigail, then it's a great communal experience because you can laugh together and you can scream together. But yeah, I feel like horror just is never going to die. People love being scared, and I feel like they love being scared in a group, and
Oh
having
yeah,
that
I'm going with friends
experience.
to see Abigail, so I can't wait.
Oh, good.
Like,
I think it's
that's a movie that needs to be like you.
Yeah, or just going by yourself, but you're around other people who are having the same experience and going on the roller coaster ride with you. I think um, it's just never going to go away from theaters and comedies too. Like when they're done well, like that's sort of it's a religious experience. We all just went through something to get, it's just so again, I like both. Obviously Matt and Tyler like both, and we get great casts that can do both. And yeah, I'm having a great time. I'm really happy that with this movie. I hope other people like it too. I think it turned out great. And
I'm
I feel like the performances are going to really steal the show from Alicia on up. I mean, she's wow, just a gem. Like we were so lucky to find her because she can do the dancing, she can do the innocent little girl, she can do the absolute monster, the sadistic, monster, intellectually and also fearly. So she's as you see in you see glimpses in the trailer of what she can do, but when you see the movie, you'll just be like, oh wow, she's everything. She's the whole package.
That's it. Oh, that makes me so excited. I
Yeah, she's
just
great.
I love seeing that though. Again, she looks innocent, and you're feeling for her, but that even in the trailer, when you see that twist, you're just like, oh. But I'm also like, well, these are criminals too, so we're all in the same playing field in a sense. So she got to do what she got to do. She's got to live. So
I
I'm.
mean, they kidnapped her, and that they
Mm-hmm.
thought she was just a normal little girl. So like that's it's not a
Trying to
thing
home
that you're
them.
really rooting for. But there, of course,
Exactly.
are degrees of evil or degrees of villainousness among our cast, and so you might find yourself hating one and being sympathetic towards another, and then that may switch, at different times during the movie. So, I just think it's a lot of fun. We loved playing with those characters, and then the actors bringing them to life, and wow, just I'm always so grateful for the casts that are assembled with by the casting director and the directors and producers in the studio, and then just to the actors individually. It's like, oh, no one else could have done exactly that, and because of that, you made the movie so much better and more specific, and it's something that will be hopefully remembered. And I'm hoping for memes in this one. There's a couple moments where I'm like, oh, that could be a meme, or that could be quoted occasionally, at a party. So fingers crossed.
I mean, oh, that's exciting. I am now that I will be watching this film and wondering well, something tells me I'll probably if it can be if you're looking at it and you can think that it's probably yeah, that's exciting.
Fingers crossed.
Well, to wrap this up, then I wanted to say thank you for this opportunity and just to get to talk to you again and about this film because it's one of my anticipated because it just looks like a fun ride. So I think we've talked about it, but I would still just what do you hope people take away from this film when they walk out of the theaters?
Well, I hope they're just kind of chuckling to themselves, remembering some of the best moments, whether it was a scary one or a funny one. I just want people to feel good coming out of it. And with horror movies, it's like you're not in danger, but your body kind of feels like it is. You're living vicariously through the characters, and that's why I think horror is so eternal and so appealing to people. It's like I got to face my mortality in a safe way.
That's
And
a great way to look at that.
and whether the ending is happy or dark, or it doesn't really matter. You feel like you've gone through a thing, and it feels like, oh, okay, maybe you appreciate something new, when you walk out of it. But for this, I just want it to be a fun ride. Honestly, it's like the feeling when you get off that roller coaster at some theme park. Um, that's what I'm hoping for. Like you're a little bit tired because you just went through something, and you're also just chuckling and you feel happy, and hopefully you feel satisfied that you spent your money on it, and you tell your friends, and hopefully it gets out there and people like it. But I think it's really fun. I think that's the headline word I would use is fun.
That's a great way to, when people ask why do I love horror, because honestly, I know it's fake, at least in a sense.
Mhm.
I'm sure if I saw something like that in front of me in real life, no, I'd probably be no,
Of course.
out the door. I'm
Yep.
just a day player. That's how I look at that. So I love hearing that, and yeah, I also I'm very excited to see this film, and just
Same.
again really appreciative, and just kudos, and I can't wait to see people actually talking about this film. That's I just want to see the reactions because I know how I'm probably going to be in the theater because but again,
No, I'm excited for that too. But thank you for having me. I always like talking to you, so I was really happy to get this invitation. And yeah, hopefully I'll be making a few more of these, and I'd love to come back and talk about the next one, whatever it might be.
I can't I mean, there's plenty that you've got on your plate that I can't wait for. So very excited, and just again, thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. This was fun.
You have been listening to the Horror Hour. See you next time.